My name is Paige, and I'll be facilitating today's webinar. Before we get started, I just want to let everybody know that we have some upcoming trainings this month and next. The first will be at Garden Park on May 30th. Then we'll be doing a 15-hour training at Green with the Floor the last day of May and through the first weekend of June. And then we'll be doing another 4-hour training at Green with the Floor on June 12th. So if you would like to register your staff for those trainings or you would like more information, just visit our website and you can sign up there. We will also be hosting a CHAMPS conference this October. Registration has not gone out yet, but it will very soon, so save the date until then. And our last webinar of the spring series will be on June 19th, and that will be presented by Rose on their role in sustainability within the community. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Alice Cheney from the University of Mississippi Medical Center.
Okay, hey everyone, my name is Alice Cheney Herndon. I'm the nurse manager for the mother-baby unit and WIC and lactation services at UMC. And so I'm excited to present this to you today. We were actually the second hospital in the state to become baby-friendly designated. So today we're just going to talk about staffing and sustainability at baby-friendly hospitals. I've had the opportunity to talk to all of the other presenters today, and everybody kind of does things different ways. So I thought that this would be a really good idea just for other hospitals who are on the pathway to see how other hospitals have done things and how they have been successful in becoming baby-friendly and also sustaining the baby-friendly movement in their hospital. Okay, so next slide. So who is UMC and how do we do things? So we are the only academic teaching facility in the state. We have the only level 4 NICU in the state, so we get babies from all over the state. We are actually in the middle of a children's expansion project that should open in 2020. We're actually going to have 2 new NICUs there that have 44 private rooms per floor. So we're getting ready to open that next fall, and we'll have 88 private NICU rooms. We have 15 intermediate care infant beds. So these are beds for babies that need monitoring but don't necessarily need a NICU stay. We have a 31-bed mother-baby unit. We have 10 LDR rooms and 3 OBS rooms in labor and delivery. And then we also have 2 operating rooms that are specifically for our OB patients, so no one else operates in those rooms. And then we also have 3 prenatal hospital-based clinics that feed into UMC, and we have 1 resident-based clinic. So it was, tricky for us to become designated because we have the whole prenatal piece that we have to take into consideration too. And then, like I said, we were the second hospital in the state to become baby-friendly designated, and we achieved that designation in September of 2017. So who are our patients on mother-baby unit? So we are a true mother-baby unit where we have nurses who are trained in antepartum, postpartum, and well baby care, and we have 1 nurse who takes care of both mom and baby at the bedside together. You'll hear from some other people today who still have nursery nurses taking care of babies and who have postpartum nurses taking care of moms, but we have 1 nurse who takes care of all of that. So we have our couplet population, so those are well babies and well moms that are allowed to room in together on the mother-baby unit. We have high-risk postpartum patients on our unit who are usually singles, who don't have their babies in the room with them. So they can be status post a hemorrhage, it can be someone who came out of the ICU, it can be a mom who ended up with a C-hyst, postpartum pre-E, so just lots of different reasons that we have a high-risk postpartum patient. And then we also have antepartum patients that are high risk. So we have moms that are ruptured, we have moms that are twins, they may be in for pyelo, sickle cell, preterm labor, chronic hypertension, diabetes, you name it. So we have a wide variety of patients on the floor, so staffing for us is tricky based on our patient population and the comorbidities that the patient may have. So staffing. So I wanted to just briefly talk about staffing on labor and delivery and then also the mother-baby unit. So the nurse-to-patient ratio in labor and delivery is 1 to 1 or 1 to 2. In an ideal world, it would always be, 1 nurse to 1 patient, but let's be honest, nobody lives in an ideal world. So they have a free charge nurse in labor and delivery to assist with staffing and running the unit. The nurses in labor and delivery also circulate their own C-sections, and then there's also a transition nurse available, and I'm going to speak more to the transition nurse piece in a minute. But just to add to the labor and delivery piece, so they have patients that are downstairs who they may be antepartum or maybe a high-risk postpartum patient that they do monitoring on for hours and hours. So that is a patient that they have to take into account and staff for. If we have a patient who comes in through the emergency department on the adult side, we may have a patient on a mobile monitor over there that the labor and delivery nurses are responsible for watching. We also have patients over in the ICU and the critical care tower who they're responsible for watching. So even if it's, a 1 to 1 or a 1 to 2 ratio, we've got really, really sick patients that the labor and delivery staff nurses are responsible for taking care of. So that's just to let you know that we don't always have these, beautiful deliveries and come in and have a baby and go straight to the floor. We have lots of complex things that happen. On the mother-baby unit, the nurse-to-patient ratio varies depending on the patient population. So our couplet ratio, generally, I've got on here 1 to 3 or 1 to 4. I would say we're more on the 1 to 3 side. If we have to take 4 couplets, if I have a nurse who has to take 4 couplets, it's a really busy day. We've had call-ins, things like that. So that's not the norm for us. The norm for us is anywhere from 2 to 3 couplets, so anywhere from 4 to 6 patients. Same thing with the antepartum, postpartum ratio, anywhere from 4 to 6, depending on what's going on with the patient. And then we also try to run with a free charge nurse so that they can help and assist wherever they're needed on the unit, and they're kind of the gatekeeper and control, who's coming where the next patient is going to go, where the next admit's going to go, things like that. And then the transition nurse also helps out on the mother-baby unit. So next slide. So transition nurses, let me speak about this for a minute. So we've had this role for about 2 years. We have 4 full-time transition nurses, and we do have some nurses that are cross-trained that are PRN nurses. So I have transition nurses that cover the schedule 7 days a week, days and nights. But there's only 1 transition nurse here at a time. So 1 on days, 1 on nights. So their primary role is to keep mom and baby together after delivery. So if the baby's term, well baby, mom as well, they will attend the delivery. They go in at the 30-minute mark and start doing everything for that mom and baby together. We have a high-risk nurse from NICU that attends all the deliveries, and so they're there for that first 30 minutes, and then the transition nurse comes in after that. So they will help do skin-to-skin, breastfeeding education. They'll do erythromycin, vitamin K, Hep B. They'll do all of that downstairs in labor and delivery at the bedside with mom and baby. Generally, after mom delivers, if she delivers vaginally, they're downstairs on labor and delivery, which is on the 2nd floor, for like 1 to 2 hours before they come up to the 3rd floor, which is the mother-baby unit. These transition nurses, they have extensive knowledge in pediatrics, OB, breastfeeding. We have two of the 4 who were labor and delivery nurses, and the other 2 were NICU nurses. But they all have wonderful experience when it comes to moms and babies. And then the last thing just says they can float through several different units. So like I mentioned on the first slide, we have an OB emergency room, which is women's urgent care, that's on the ground floor. So they've floated down there sometimes. They also help out on the mother-baby unit and help out on labor and delivery. So they're kind of my jack-of-all-trades people and can go wherever the need is. Next slide. Hey, can you mute your phone?
That's 2 days. Yeah. That's horrible.
I'm going to keep going. So the maternal acuity scale, so this is something that I have been looking for a really long time to try to implement an acuity scale for our patient population, and there's just not anything out there. I've been on some listserv searches and looked, and there's nothing that really incorporates our patient population into an acuity scale. So one of my charge nurses on night shift was working on her master's project with me, and I said, I have a really good idea. I said, let's do a maternal acuity scale. I think it would be great. I think it would help with nurse-to-patient ratios. I think it would help with staffing, with productivity, things like that. So we put our heads together, and this is what we came up with. And if somebody wants this, I'm happy to send you the Word document so that you can have it if you want to look at it and possibly talk about implementing it on your units. But so we came up with 3 different levels. We did level 1, 2, and 3, so low, moderate, and high risk. So a level 1 was a low risk, a delivery without complications. We have very few of those patients at UMC. The majority of our patients fall into either a moderate or a high risk. So the moderate risk patients, which were level 2, you can see all the things that are listed there. And the list is not all-inclusive, but those are some of the patients that fall into that moderate risk category. And then the level 3 is high risk, and you can see those are, your uncontrolled diabetics, your preterm labor that are on the floor that are dilated and contracting, someone who had a postpartum hemorrhage less than 12 hours ago, and then uncontrolled, whether you're antepartum or postpartum. So those are the different levels that we looked at. So if you'll go to the next slide, I'll tell you kind of how we started going about this. So again, I worked with my charge nurse who was working on her master's project to try to incorporate the acuity scale into what we're already doing. Because what I didn't want to do was create more work for the staff. It had to be something that would flow well, that wasn't going to be super time consuming, but the staff would see the benefit in it. So to get started, I asked Lauren, the charge nurse who was working on her project, to present the acuity scale to the other charge nurses, the educator, and myself, because I wanted her to put it out there and just kind of get some feelers and see what they thought about it and whether or not that they thought it would be a good project. And they all agreed that it was something that they thought that we really needed. And so she gathered their feedback, made some changes, made some recommendations, and then what we did was we educated all the frontline staff members and got their feedback to try to see, hey, what do you think about this? Are we forgetting anything? Is there anything we need to add, anything we need to omit? And overall, everybody thought that it was a really good idea, and so we decided to move forward with it. And the decision was made to incorporate the scale onto something that we already use, which is we have a patient list, and we call it our brain. We have a mom brain, and we have a baby brain. And on our brain, basically, it's the patient list, like if you were to print it out from your medical record, but it has the patient's room number, it has their name, it has if they're antepartum, if they're postpartum, it has their diagnoses, it has if they're on IV fluids, it has their diet, it has any significant nursing notes on there. So it's a quick handoff tool that the staff uses. It is not part of the medical record. It's something that we keep on a computer at the desk in a Word document. And the staff is responsible for updating that brain every shift. So if there's an admit, they add it to the brain, and then when they're getting ready to leave for their shift, they have to update everything and make sure it's correct. So we decided to incorporate the acuity scale onto the brain. So we started trialing this on the mother-baby unit in mid-March, and we started, just one shift to see what the staff thought about it. So overall, the staff really likes it. What has been very nice for the staff to see is the acuity level of the patients. And I'm sure some other hospitals have had this too, thinking some of the nursing staff will think, oh, well, my patient assignment was terrible today, or I had the sickest patients on the unit. Well, by incorporating the acuity scale into the brain, they can see what level their patient is, and then they can easily see what level the other staff's patients are. So they think, the staff really feel like this has helped with patient assignments. It's been nice for them to know that, hey, I don't have the worst assignment on the unit. I've got 2 level 3 patients, but so do 3 other nurses. So they have really liked that, and so this is something that we trialed, something that we're going to continue to use. Another piece of that, too, is, like I told you a few slides back, our staffing ratio is anywhere from 4 to 6. Well, if we have, 15 level 3 patients, I need to try to keep the nurses at a 1 to 4 ratio, not a 1 to 6 ratio.
Specialty services also benefit today's woman.
Okay, so depending on the acuity level of the patients will also help account for how many nursing staff we need. So that's been another good thing about it. So next steps are just to continue to use the scale and to fine-tune it wherever that, wherever needs may arise. If the staff can think of other things and include other things, we can do that. And the other thing is, what about the babies? Because this is, like I said, this is a maternal acuity scale. We didn't really take into account the babies. We've talked about the babies and have decided that we will score the babies either low risk or high risk. And by high risk, I mean someone who is maybe a poor breastfeeder, or a baby that's SGA or LGA and on glucose protocol. That would be more of a high risk baby. So we do look at the babies too and try to spread that out, but the maternal acuity scale did not take into account the babies. Okay, next slide. So our sustainability plan. So we're in the 2nd year of quality improvement, and we're just going to continue to do what we're doing. So currently we have monthly baby-friendly work group meetings. So the staff that are at those meetings, so there's someone from lactation there. There's one of our nurses who does like all of our data and our patient audits. She's there. I'm there, my educator, the nurse manager and educator from the nursery. We have prenatal clinics who are involved, and then we've got some team lead physicians who are involved. So we meet every month as a work group to just go over our metrics, make sure that we're maintaining that 80% mark, and to just keep everybody thinking about baby friendly and to making sure we're continuing to do what we're supposed to do. Also, we have monthly unit staff meetings. So I generally have 2 staff meetings per month. This way day shift and night shift can come. I can get both rotations, and based on what our metrics are and where our audit results come in will depend on what we need to talk about at the staff meetings. But we're always keeping baby friendly on the brain so that people are aware of where we are and what we're doing. Chart audits and reviews, this is something that is emailed to me every month. We have a nurse that looks at that to say, are we meeting metrics or are we falling below? And then if we are falling below, have we changed a process? Have we done something? Like what is going on? Do we need to drill into something to see if we need to make a change? Patient audits and questionnaires, it's very important to keep communication lines open with the patients and make sure that what we say we're doing and what we document that we're doing, that we're actually doing, and that we're on the same page with the patients. Constantly doing ongoing staff education. We do that, again, during monthly unit meetings and then also through email communication. My educator sends out emails every Friday just to update on anything that the staff may need to know about. And then patient and family education and support. It is my goal to round on every patient every day. That's something that my educator and I started doing in January of this year, and it's been really neat to get to go in and round on the moms every day and make sure that they're getting the education that they need and the support that they need to go home and be successful whether it's with breastfeeding or if they have questions about skin to skin, about safety, things like that.
My friend's daughter.
Next slide. Okay, so this is my last slide, and these are just some little words of wisdom for those of you who are on the pathway. So in order to be successful, to become baby-friendly designated, you have to change the culture. You can't just make a quick fix and think you're going to be able to sustain it. Baby-friendly designation is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It is long, and it is tedious, and it is hard work, but I can tell you that it's really, really worth it. Our patients, time and time again, just tell me about what great experiences that they're having and that they've learned about their baby, and they're glad that the baby's out in the room with them. And I do think that that was probably the biggest concern initially from our patients was that the mom wouldn't get any sleep, and what if she was exhausted and she wanted her baby to go back to the nursery. But I've seen more and more moms who have loved it and who have learned more about providing the best care for her baby because the baby's in the room with them. Remember, it takes a village in order to be successful and sustain your practices. So baby-friendly designation is not a one-man or a one-woman show. It takes a dedicated team. So make sure that you have the right people in place and get people who are really passionate about making the change and seeing the change be sustained. Don't get discouraged. It's easy to get discouraged because it seems like it's a daunting task at times, and sometimes you don't know where to start. But, you know, it's like people say, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And that's the same thing with baby-friendly. So baby steps, one step at a time. And then just keep pushing forward and stay strong because I strongly believe that if UMC can become baby-friendly, any other hospital can do it because we had challenge after challenge, and we've been able to, you know, become designated, and our metrics consistently are above 80%. So we're just really, really proud of the work that we've done and know that your hospitals can do it too. Next slide. So there is my email address and my office number. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you so much, Alice Cheney.
Thank you.
I'm going to hand it over now to Amy Brower from Baptist Memorial Hospital, North Mississippi. Amy, are you there?
Hey, so sorry. I'm here.
No problem.
Can you hear me now? I had it on mute. I'm crazy.
Yes. No, you're fine.
So I am Amy Brower, and I'm the nurse manager from Baptist North Mississippi in Oxford. And I was asked to give just a quick overview of our designation road and how we're planning on and going about becoming sustainable as far as keeping our designation after we worked so hard to get it. So just a little bit about the timeline. We actually completed the entire travel time to designation within 3 years, but it was a long, hard road to hoe. We went into discovery phase in September of 2015 and then moved into development pretty quickly, November 2015. We then went on to dissemination in June of 2016, and then we entered designation phase in June of 2017. We had our survey in May of 2018, and then we were officially designated baby-friendly in August of 2018. So it was a long journey, but we were able to do it, and I completely agree with what Alice Cheney said as far as, it's not a sprint. It is totally a marathon, and sometimes it's really easy to just think there's no way that we're going to be able to do this. Our moms are not going to do this. There's always going to be some people who don't wish to do certain things, and so you just have to educate appropriately and then move on. Next slide. So some of our staffing goals related to sustaining baby-friendly and then keeping our patients safe, which is ultimately our most important goal. In labor and delivery, minimum staffing is 2 RNs and 1 OB scrub tech. We have pretty much kind of the same setup, just not nearly as big as Alice Cheney at UMMC. We have 6 labor and delivery rooms, and we have a 4-bed triage and recovery room with bays, and then we have 2 ORs that we do our C-sections in. Attached to our labor and delivery unit, we have a 16-bed level 2 nursery, and then we have our postpartum floor just outside of those doors. So we're lucky and small enough that we do have everything located on one floor behind a closed unit. But, of course, we also have the constraints of not being able to go outside of that unit, with, like, new developments and supplies and things like that. We're very blessed to have a new facility that we just moved into in Thanksgiving of 2017. So we were able to kind of look at what we wanted and kind of build, our dream house, so to speak, and be able to move into it and get things going, kind of setting ourselves up. We may staff 3 during the week if we have a lot on the schedule. During the night, if we have to call in, we usually have some people that may be on call or standby. Nursery, we were blessed that our organization responded to the need for increased monitoring with babies that are skin to skin. So we just chose to put that nurse in the nursery for now. We may move to a different model of care in the near or not near future as far as mother baby, but for right now, this has worked well for us as our nursery nurses do attend every delivery. That way they're able to stay at the bedside, or either if they do have to leave, then they have another a labor and delivery nurse who is cross-trained in well baby care and is able to keep up and monitor those that diet together. I have 2 head nurses, 1 day shift, 1 night shift. I schedule them out of staffing if at all possible. That helps deal for call-ins, unexpected census increases, and other things. Of course, manager, ultimately, I'm, available during the week as needed. I do live in town. To be honest, even though the staff, my head nurses do an awesome job at covering a good bit of that stuff. And so, the actual time that I've had to stay extra has been very minimal, and I'm blessed to have a wonderful team like that. Call hours, I try to give only 1 or 2 call shifts per 6-week schedule, and we try to concentrate those on the weekends because my head nurses are not, and of course myself, are not scheduled for other duties during the weekend. And so we do have 1 head nurse or manager that's like on call administratively for issues or questions and what have you. And then we have staff nurses who are on call to come in for, say, ambulance transport to a tertiary care center and what have you. Next slide. So practices were, we being a smaller facility than UMMC have to be a little bit more creative as to how we use our manpower and how to make up for, some of the gaps that we may develop by not having extra hands. Our nurses, I've tried to get as many of them as I can cross-trained at least minimally to both the nursery, the floor, and of course L&D is very hard to just cross-train a little. You either do it or you don't, but at least they do know to go back there, and they know they've been checked off on how to place a patient in the bed and get them set and set up a room, and just things that you may not think help a whole lot, but in the long scheme of things, they really do. I teach NRP classes, and I've started doing kind of an overview of the warmers and how they work and how to turn them on, and just little stuff that you would think that most people take for granted that they know or should know, and they really don't because they never get to touch these pieces of equipment. So that way, even when they're doing a resuscitative case, someone can scribe, and even the HUCs can write down what time oxygen was started. And I've tried to tell people, you know, when we do the codes, to say things out loud so that other people who may not be able to see can actually document and keep up with things. We do use the RAP score, which we are having built into Epic. We do that every 10 minutes while skin to skin. We observe constantly, but we're going to document that as a smart phrase while they're in skin to skin. If the nursery has to get called away for an emergency or what have you, then L&D is cross-trained for just a normal well baby, which if we don't have, of course, ultimately, if it came down to it, unfortunately, we didn't have the staffing to keep them, we're going to go with the side of patient safety. And so we'll usually give the mom, if they're able to, which usually the first 30 minutes or so, unless it's a mom acuity, then we'll give them the option to actually go with them to the nursery if need be. If at any time the newborn or the mother's acuity says, hey, you know, maybe we don't need to keep them together or keep them skin to skin and they have to be separated, then ultimately we're going to do it. We're going to try to educate and we're going to explain it to the mom. We're going to do everything we can to either keep that baby in there with the mom or either keep that mom in there with the baby. And so sometimes you have to be creative and think outside the box to do that. Next slide. So some of our barriers, which, I mean, with every good thing that you do, you also have to look at, okay, what's keeping us from doing even better. I try to tell people and the staff that works for me, you know, when we start a meeting, I try to start it off with a positive note. One good thing that they're doing, you know, at any given time. Documentation, we do 100% chart reviews, and my head nurse is awesome at doing that and taking care of that. And so as we're going through the care of the patient, we're trying to go and look at documentation real time. That way we can, you know, educate and we can try to maybe get documentation fixed if it's not, you know, but just a couple of hours ago, we can show them, and it's kind of like teaching them as they go, and we can take them by the hand and we can say, now, did you do this, and what did you do? Well, how did the conversation go? And teaching them the importance of being a little bit more detail-oriented with documentation in order to support what really happened. I like to tell my nurses, you know, 10 years from now, if there's ever an issue, you're not going to remember details, and, you know, no attorney or no judge is going to ever look at anecdotal memories of what happened, and they're not going to let you put it into the chart at that point. So you really have to kind of know when to document just a little bit more detail. Education, you know, you can't bore these moms. You have to keep it interactive. You have to keep it fresh, and you have to keep it with something that they're going to listen to. You can't just hand them, you know, a handful of handouts and say read, because the first thing they're going to do is put it to the side, and they should, because they've got a whole lot more to do real time as far as delivering their baby. We do childbirth classes, and they are free of charge, and we try to get people to be more interactive with them and participate. I did just recently kind of change the way we were doing it. It was a 5-week series, and I changed it to a 3-week series and kind of changed up a little bit of the content to kind of make it a little fresh, and so that people wouldn't think, hey, I'm signing up for 5 weeks of my life. 3 is just a little bit better, because most people can say, oh, well, yeah, I can make 3 classes. But we really tell people, if you can't come to all of them, come to what you can, because you never know what you'll pick up in even just one session of that childbirth class. We try to make sure that we're available if they have any questions. We tell them to email us those questions, or either they can call us with those questions or come by, and we try to be really flexible as far as tours and taking time to see patients. My lactation consultant tries to be very available if someone needs help, either, you know, prior to birth, deciding if they're wanting to breastfeed, getting ready for, you know, undertaking it, because some people really like to be prepared, and then also troubleshooting issues if they have it afterwards. And we do have them come in for a follow-up. If they don't have a clinic that has a lactation consultant, then we do absolutely schedule them to come back in to us to have a weight check done and to make sure that we assess their latch and everything else to make sure that they're successfully breastfeeding. It's been a whole lot of trying to teach the nurses exactly how to be tactful, and some people have it as a natural skill more than others. And so, you know, anytime that you're trying to educate someone on quote-unquote best practices, you have to be very tactful in the way you present information, because the last thing you want to do is make a mom feel bad because they don't desire to breastfeed or they don't desire to do skin-to-skin. And, you know, it's not so much you're wanting to change their mind. You just want to make sure that they're prepared with the best, most recent education that's given them a comprehensive view of the benefits of doing skin-to-skin and the risk of not staying roomed in with your baby. I mean, ultimately, we had the same thing about, oh, I'm not going to be able to rest with my baby in my room. I need to get some rest before I go home. And put it more so, you know, we're going to be out in the room with you if you need us to. We have Volt phones, which the nurses carry and have an outside extension. And so we actually leave that extension with the mom and say, this is your lifeline to your nurse. If you need anything at all, you just call this extension and you're going to get your nurse. You're not going to bother anybody else, and they're going to be able to either help you or they will be right out to help you. And so ultimately they don't feel like, oh, if I push the call light, I'm going to bother someone else and it's just about the baby and everything like that. Mainly, I mean, you know, we would like for everybody to feel like we're here and we can help you, and we're here to help you while you're here. And so you're going to take this baby home and you're going to be able to take care of this baby primarily, and that's our ultimate goal. Next slide, I'm sorry. So some of the successes, besides the fact of us just becoming baby-friendly, you know, I do feel right now that, you know, with us continuously doing the audits and we're doing the chart reviews, I feel like even if, you know, baby-friendly walked in here tomorrow, that we would have a very good chance of, you know, being recertified. And I think that that's a good feeling to have, because nobody wants to say, oh, God, I hope they don't come, even though they don't do surprise surveys and what have you. Even with the change to the new guidelines, which we started implementing and going in October of 2018, and making sure that we were adhering to, our skin-to-skin rate has remained 80 to 90%. Our breastfeeding initiation rate has increased to the 70% range consistently, and our exclusivity rate has remained in the 40 to 50% range, but we have had about 4 of the last 8 months that we've broke the 50% mark on exclusive breastfeeding, and so that's, you know, been a pretty good successes, I would say. Our rooming in rate has remained 100%, and our moms are, you know, embracing the whole, you know, keeping their baby with them and not having to be separate from their baby, and not looking at it as a burden but as a blessing. Next slide. And this is just one example of a success and an impact. This patient, LaKendra Bush, she gave birth to her first daughter on December 7th. This was actually included in the pediatrics article that CHAMPS had published. And these were just a couple of the comments that she made and that she was quoted as saying in the article. And I think that ultimately, I mean, that was just a beautiful picture of, you know, baby-friendly at its best, and being able to see the moms and the babies being able to share that transition time together. That's next. I think that's it. That's it.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Renee Simpson from Merit Health Women's Hospital.
Hey, hello everybody. Can you hear me? Hey.
Oh my God! Did I miss Angie?
Can you hear me, Paige?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
After this will be Lou Ann Wall from King's Daughters, and if you have any background noise going on in the room you're in, please put yourself on mute so we can hear our presenters.
Thank you. I'm Renee Simpson from Merit Health Women's Hospital in Flowood, Mississippi. I'm the lactation nurse and the baby-friendly lead here at our hospital. We're part of the Merit Health System, one of 8 hospitals, 3 of which are designated baby-friendly, so we're very, very proud of that. That's just the next slide, Paige. I'm sorry. We started out in 2015 with becoming a CHAMPS hospital, and then, as you can see, we just went on through the steps, and we were designated in September of 2018. Next slide. Our staffing here at Women's Hospital, we have a newborn division that consists of our NICU Level 3 nurses, our newborn nurses. Our lactation staff is 2 full-time IBCLC, 1 PRN IBCLC, and then we also have a night CLC that has helped tremendously with our rooming in. We have an L&D unit and a postpartum unit that is also med-surg, and they have a heavy population of breast cancer surgery patients. So it's a very, very busy postpartum med-surg unit. Next slide. So the way we have developed our plan is we are not a mother-baby unit, so we've had to just kind of everybody step in at different times depending on census. On a good day with our vaginal deliveries, the NICU nurses attend all the deliveries, and they begin skin-to-skin, do the assessment of the baby, vital signs and APGARs. And then once the baby is stable, they call the transition newborn nurse who steps in and does the 2 hours transition. And then we have a charge nurse in the newborn division, and she picks up the babies on the floor while the transition nurses are with the moms. So on a busy day, if the charge nurse has to go to a delivery and do transition, sometimes the lactation staff's asked to go help with skin-to-skin, or there may be a nurse on the floor that we can pull into transition. So we try to all work together on those really busy, crazy days especially. Next slide. Our C-section deliveries, we have the NICU nurse also goes to those, and the newborn transition nurse picks up transition in the recovery room after mom is transported to the recovery room. We do have some moms that request the skin-to-skin in the OR. That's one of our plans to try to increase our numbers on that. So that's kind of one of our PDSAs for our sustainability plan is let's see how we can do more skin-to-skin in the OR. Next slide. So we are in our first year of designation, so our sustainability staffing plan, we want to maintain an active task force. I think that's so important to just keep your management and your administrative people involved in that, let them know what's going on because numbers are going to vary every month. We may be doing great on rooming in this month and it may not be so great next time. So they need to know that so that we can come up with a plan. And then we have to assess our staff practices through the discharge audits. We do 100% audit, look through those charts every day with our discharge moms. And then we just have to kind of keep up and see, is there a pattern? Is there a nurse that has the same issue every month with skin-to-skin or rooming in? And we do one-on-one counseling with those nurses. So we want to train all of our new staff according to the feeding policy. As you acquire new staff, it's kind of hard to do huge training sessions, 4 to 5 hour training sessions one-on-one. So we're trying to come up with a plan to do more of just having those nurses go with a lactation nurse and really get some one-on-one training depending on their background also. And then we do competency evaluations every year that we're going to continue doing that for our sustainability. We have an expectations form that all the nurses sign with their annual review, which goes over all the baby-friendly steps, and we get them to sign that. And next slide. And then you can go to the next. So we're just so happy to see sunshine in Mississippi. I had to put that up there. So the work doesn't stop once you're designated. The practices that you have now have to continue. You have to continue with your audits. We have to continue to make the staff compliant and accountable. I think that's a big thing individually. And then your ongoing data collection is going to be very, very important for sustainability. That's all I had.
Thank you, Renee. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to our last presenter, who is Luann Wall from King's Daughters.
I am Luann. We began our baby-friendly journey in January of 2015, and we were designated February of 2019. So KDMC has provided 104 years of excellent service to Brookhaven and our surrounding communities, which includes Natchez, Woodville, Centerville, Liberty, Gloucester area, a lot of Macomb, Osika, Monticello, Hazelhurst. We kind of go out at least 60-mile radius and draw in. We have about 700 babies a year. We have 9 LDRP suites and 3 observation rooms, 5 mini suites for postpartum overflow, and our nursery is classified as a level 2 stabilization nursery. And our hospital has 99 beds. So we're small, but we're not as big as UMC and some other hospitals, but we do deliver 700 babies plus a year. Next slide. All right, and our hospital has been in the top 10 for patient satisfaction for about 5 or 6 years, and we are also a grade hospital safety score. Let's see, that's a hospital safety grade, Leapfrog, and we're also in the best places to work in Mississippi. And we've also won the Women's Choice Award for Obstetrics since 2013 through 2017. And one thing that I've noticed in our hospital since I've been here 13 years, and in labor and delivery and the nursery, there's not very many employee turnovers. You start here and you stay here. Hardly ever does anybody leave. So our education has been pretty easy because everybody got the education, and there's been very few people that have come on that I've had to add to education. So that's made that a lot easier. We continue to provide maternal and newborn care as a labor, delivery, recovery, postpartum unit. Our labor nurses are also our postpartum nurses. You know, rarely do we have a ton of patients, but sometimes we will have somebody from surgical or from another area come and help take care of postpartums. And we do have a few of those nurses over the hospital that have been trained to do that. And also some of our labor nurses can work in the nursery, and some of our nursery nurses can work with postpartums. We have a level 2 stabilization nursery, so we do ship babies to UMC. We keep babies 32 and above weeks here, and we have our well newborns. They remain in the rooms with their moms on labor and delivery. And our patient rooms are from 1 to 9 down the hallway, and like I said, the moms deliver those rooms. They C-section down the hall on one end of our hallway and go back to their rooms there. And their labor nurse stays with them through the C-section and through their recovery and through their stay. And our staffing pretty much reflects the A1 standards. So usually in our nursery, we have 1 or 2 nurses, depending on how many patients we have. Usually one nurse takes care of 4 babies. If we get 5 babies, we will have another nurse. If we have deliveries, inductions, something like that, we may have another nurse here for that. Our nursery nurses do go to the deliveries and transition the babies and care for them the whole stay. So we're not changing hands with patients. We continue that care. And most of our nurses work a 3-2 split. So usually if they deliver on a Monday, on a Tuesday, that vaginal delivery will probably be going home, and they've most likely had the same nurse their whole stay. And next slide. What we're doing to stay on track is we're continuing the audits. We do the CHAMPS data collection and also use the baby-friendly audit tools to collect that monthly data. We call the moms, talk to the moms while they're here, and keep up with that tool. And then we also use the chart audit tool to keep track of the staff charts, the staff charting. And I go through each chart. Every baby chart is gone through. and I try to do that daily or weekly, just to see how the staff are charting, if they're missing something. I try to pick it up while the baby's here. If they didn't chart ending of skin to skin, I keep up with that. To get that nurse to go back in and correct that, because usually it's just that she got busy and just forgot to click exactly what time it was. We do have, I'm going to say, on average, 100% of our babies doing skin to skin. Rarely do we have a mom refuse it, even if the mom is unstable and not ready to hold the baby at that time, or if the baby's in observation for respiratory reasons or anything like that, the baby will go skin to skin as soon as possible, and we chart that when that happens. The patient audit tool helps to give us the feedback on how the staff's doing, and if I call a mom and I find out that nobody talked to her about formula preparation, then I try to re-educate staff and say, you've got to really hit those points when you're doing the education. A lot of times they'll say, well, I really did, but, mom had some pain medication. So we try to do teaching when the mom hasn't had pain medication or Phenergan or something that keeps her from remembering. Because I know when I go out, I'm also the IBCLC, so I do the lactation teaching on all the patients. And if I go out after a C-section, I try not to do a whole lot of education during that time because the moms hardly remember. So I'll go back out the following day and do more education and then try to do even more on the day of discharge, just so they can remember and try to refresh on things that I've told them. I give them all my cell phone numbers and a sheet of paper that has all of the discharge information that they need, contact information for WIC, our Baby Cafe support group. We have a Facebook group for breastfeeding that is really good. I think it's up to 200 and something members, and that's moms that have delivered just here in the hospital. And a lot of people know each other, friends, family, and that has been a really great tool. So Facebook has been really good at helping moms and giving moms support. And then also the WIC department has told us about the Pacify app. So I don't know if you know about the Pacify app. That has been a great tool to give moms. That way they have 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week access to a lactation consultant by using the app because they FaceTime with them. All right, next slide. And staff education. We do yearly skills labs and monthly unit meetings. We always talk about baby friendly at every unit meeting and try to encourage staff to keep current with their education and to keep on track with their teaching, and just try to remind people of where they might be falling short, praising them on things that they're doing good. And then we have, I'm an IBCLC, and we have 3 others that are CLCs. So we try to maintain our CEs and certifications. And then our new staff education, like I said, we hardly ever have new staff, but if somebody starts, we try to get them started with their 20 hours, make sure everybody's had their chance 4 hours, and we keep everybody oriented to the feeding policy. Next slide. And patient education, that we review that yearly, monthly, as we need to, because sometimes things change. Like our Baby Cafe meeting, we had started meeting once a week. Well, we had such a drop in attendance, so we moved that back down to 2 times a month. So we do that the first Tuesday of the month and the third Tuesday of the month. And we have it at the library the first Tuesday and the third Tuesdays here at our hospital. So we work on that, and then we continue working with the OB clinic and providing prenatal education, in which we have a book that we provide to them, and they call us and let us know when they're running low on their books. And they also refer moms to the Mommy University, which is our one-on-one prenatal education. And all of our staff can do these classes and talk to the moms, but Lisa Spring, she's one of our main nurses that does the Mommy University. And we also talk to them about breastfeeding while they're here and skin to skin and what's going to take place. So that is a great thing. And we continue providing education materials to our outpatients. So when we have moms that come in for triage or pregnant ladies come in for their triage, or just because they were hurting, we send them home with some education material. And then while they're here, we provide education materials for discharge. So we make sure our moms really have all of the information that they need. And we also see our babies 2 to 3 days after discharge. So especially those moms that are breastfeeding, that when they come back, they have an opportunity to meet with somebody if they're having any trouble with their breastfeeding. Next slide. And our breastfeeding support group, which we got together with the WIC department and started the Baby Cafe, and we started a cluster here. We have our meetings at the library and here at the hospital, and we've also branched off into the Macomb area where we do one. The Macomb, I believe the nurses or the WIC department work with that group and have that at St. Andrews. I think that's the second or third Thursday of the month. And WIC, I maintain a good relationship with the ladies there, Kristen and Shelley and April. They're wonderful to work with. They will come up and see moms. If we're having a really, really busy day and lots of deliveries and a lot of breastfeeding moms, because of the Baby Cafe, they can come up and see these moms if they need some help. And also moms that are having trouble getting the baby latched, maybe the baby's an intermediate baby or in the NICU, the ladies from the WIC department will come up, supply them with a pump, and help them out and pretty much go over all the teaching with them. I know Kristen came last week and she spent an hour and a half in the room with the mom, and that really helped me out and helped the mom. So we work together to grow the Baby Cafe. We provide lunch for these ladies, and it's free, and they give their numbers. And the Baby Cafe has been a really good thing. We've really enjoyed it. Next slide. And it doesn't stop with designation because this is an ongoing process. So we're just working to improve the results and the data that we collect. We're trying to strengthen those weak areas. Because, after you're designated, sometimes you start falling short in the education area, or you might be falling short in the charting area. So we just keep trying to stay on track and watch what we're doing. And we use the feedback of the moms to help improve and motivate the staff. It's really good when you have a mom or a grandmother come in and they say, I really wish we had had this when I had my baby. I wish it had been like this for my previous babies. And it's just really, I've seen families are really liking it. At first, it was kind of, everybody was scared of it, not knowing what to expect, whether families were going to be happy with it, especially having to wait an hour to see the baby for the first time. But I've only heard good feedback from everybody, even about the rooming in. Moms are happy that their babies are staying in the room. They don't have to worry about what's going on while the baby's in the nursery. They're going to get a pacifier or a bottle or anything like that. And we also have, for our moms that I don't have on this slide, but we have a education channel that they can see on TV, and we also give them the website that they can look up health, and it's called Health Clips. And it's really good. They have a password that they use to get on. There's different videos they can watch, from like comforting your crying baby, talking about the newborn screening, the baby's first test, the benefits of skin to skin, well baby visits, newborn immunizations. It even has yoga for moms. So it's lots of good information that we're giving them for discharge and for while they're here. And then also we try to stay connected with other hospitals, as we're doing right now, trying to find out the ways that they're doing to maintain and improve. And I've really been very interested in this RAP score, because that is something new to me. So I've learned something new today, and I hope y'all have too. But being connected with other hospitals, because this is a struggle and it's hard. And the culture of Mississippi, we're so used to babies going to the nursery, mamas not breastfeeding, trying to let the moms sleep while they're here, sending them home with free formula, even if they're breastfeeding. So it has been lots and lots of changes for all of us. Next slide. And this is a picture from one of our baby cafes. And you see we have a good group. And it's just, we always have a lot of fun. And they love the group. And the lady in the green in the middle that's holding the baby, that is her adopted baby. And she breastfed for about 3 months. So, and in the front, I see 2 of the WIC ladies. But you see, everybody's smiling. They love it. And I don't know if y'all are doing baby work group, but I'd like to hear how y'all are doing y'all. Next slide.
I think that's all I have for you.
That's all? Okay. Well, we've also recently become a drop-off for the milk bank. So that is one of our new things that we're just starting. So we're excited to see how that's going to go. I think we've got 5 moms that will be dropping their milk off here. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Luann, and thank you to our other 3 presenters as well, Amy Brower, Alice Cheney-Herndon, and Renee Simpson. We're so lucky and we're so grateful that you're willing to share your experiences. So many other hospitals in the state are going baby-friendly as well. So thank you, and thank you to everybody that joined our webinar today. We hope you enjoyed it, but if you have any questions or if you'd like to get in touch with any of these presenters, you're welcome to email us. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.